Hi folks, in today's Eco News, scientists are developing flavourless peas as a soy substitute. In a UK trial, Mars bar wrappers have been changed to paper, and excessive foraging in the UK for wild garlic and mushrooms is a risk to wildlife. News from EcoWatch that scientists are developing flavourless peas as a soy substitute for plant-based foods. With increasing demand for plant-based alternatives to meat and dairy, researchers in the UK are looking for more sustainable alternatives to imported soybeans. They're working to develop a new kind of pea that lacks the typical flavour of peas and could be a more neutral-tasting substitute. Claire Dominy, a scientist at John Innes Centre, said, "People increasingly want plant-based protein in their diets rather than from animals, so flavourless peas have suddenly become flavour of the day." Scientists at John Innes Centre first developed a gene for flavourless peas in the 1990s, while trying to develop peas that would taste fresh for longer. But their research was stopped because the peas were becoming flavourless, and there wasn't a demand at the time. But now, as UK imports around 4 million metric tonnes of soy per year, the research has been rebooted. According to governmental organisation Innovate UK, demand for plant-based meats is growing at about 30% per year. Cheese and milk alternatives are seeing even more growth, at 40 to 50% respectively. While soy is often used to make these products, much of the imported soy is sourced from South America and has been linked to rainforest deforestation. Instead, making peas without flavour could result in protein-packed plant-based products that are more sustainable. They can be grown locally and require less nitrogen fertiliser as the crop sends more nitrogen back into the soil. Paul Billings, Managing Director of Germinal UK and Ireland, said pea flavours are undesirable for consumers in processed food, so the goal is to produce peas that are tasteless but retain nutritional value. The goals of the Pea Protein Project include replacing soy with crops grown in the UK, meeting demand for plant-based proteins and producing the soy alternatives sustainably. And as BBC reported, growing 40,000 hectares more peas as a soy alternative could save 24,000 metric tonnes of carbon emissions per year. It seems like a great idea, finding an alternative to this imported soy that can be grown in the UK and also is reducing the need for nitrogen-based fertilisers. Seems like a win-win situation. The Guardian has reported that in a UK trial, Mars bars have changed their wrappers from plastic to paper. They say that consumers buying Mars bars at Tesco will notice a change. The chocolate bar's usual plastic wrapper has been swapped for a more environmentally friendly paper one. The confectionery maker Mars Incorporated is trialling recyclable paper packaging for a limited time, with the bars available at 500 Tesco stores. The company is looking to explore different types of packaging and how these work in everyday life. It added it would use the feedback to inform future packaging pilots. And Mars' current plastic wrappers cannot be recycled. Crisps, chocolate and cheese have traditionally been regarded as the worst foods for packaging recyclability, and big brands have previously come under pressure from customers and campaigners to do more to swap their wrappers to help the environment. The Guardian state that Quality Street ditched its traditional foil and plastic wrappers for recyclable paper before last Christmas. The change, made by the brand owner Nestlé, marked the end of shiny plastic wrappers for the first time since its launch in 1936, in favour of a kind of packaging collected by most local authorities for 9 of its 11 sweets. Now those other two were the Orange Crunch and the Green Triangle that remained in their existing foil wrappers as they were not wrapped in a layer of plastic. Now at the time, Nestlé also announced it was switching Kit Kat wrappers to 80% recycled plastic, allowing them to be recycled at supermarkets across the UK or put in household recycling in Ireland. A packaging expert at Mars Wrigley's UK Research and Development Centre said, "For Mars Bar, the challenge was to find the right paper packaging solution with an adequate level of barrier properties to protect the chocolate whilst guaranteeing the food's safety, quality and integrity of the product to prevent food waste." Mars said it is investing hundreds of millions of pounds to redesign thousands of types of packaging and meet its goal of reducing the use of virgin plastics by a quarter in the short term, while also increasing its use of recycled plastic in its packaging. Well, it's great to see progress from Mars with this trial of paper packaging. For some, the speed of progress is rather slow, it has to be said, but at least progress is being made. Personally, I think we need to be speeding up this transition away from unrecyclable packaging. I'd like to see a much greater investment in these sort of trials so that we can see a quicker transition to recyclable materials for all of these sorts of packaging. This article is from The Guardian, and it should be noted it is from mid-May. Now they're saying that excessive foraging for wild garlic and mushrooms in the UK is a risk to wildlife. Foragers for wild garlic and mushrooms have been picking ingredients in protected sites, taking too much and putting wildlife at risk, experts have warned. The trend of gathering food in the wild has boomed in recent years, with top restaurants serving foraged food on the menu, and it can be a healthy and sustainable way for people to get closer to nature. Now in spring in particular, restaurant menus are full of foraged goods. Michelin-starred chef Tommy Banks, who runs Roots in York, uses invasive species in his recipes. He said, "The way we forage at Oldstead is absolutely sustainable and strategic. We mainly forage invasive plants or weeds that grow in abundance, such as sea buckthorn and Japanese knotweed. We only ever handpick what we need for our restaurants across hundreds of acres." However, the National Trust has said that people have been picking armfuls of foraged goods in order to sell it commercially, and that it has harmed fragile ecosystems. Ben McCarthy, head of Nature Conservation and Restoration at the National Trust, said, "If undertaken carefully and only for personal use, foraging can be good fun and help people connect with nature. However, excessive foraging or foraging on protective sites, such as sites of special scientific interest, can be detrimental to our precious wildlife and negatively impact delicate ecosystems. We want everyone to enjoy the places we care for, but excessive foraging removes nature and beauty from places so others cannot appreciate them. Sadly, we have seen some examples of commercial and unsustainable foraging in recent years." The Trust has written a code of conduct for visitors who wish to pick elderflowers, nettles, wild garlic or other ingredients in their gardens and nature reserves, asking them to only pick for personal consumption and to take no more than what they are sure they will use. They suggest only taking 1 in 20 plants, and warn never to pick protected species, not to forage anything without consent on sites of strategic scientific interest, and to only take ingredients which are obviously abundant and common. Rob Stoneman, Director of Landscape Recovery for the Wildlife Trusts, said, "Responsible wild foraging is a great reminder of how nature is bountiful and immensely good for us. Don't be afraid to get out in the fresh air to gather wild and nutritious food. It's great for the body, but more importantly the soul. We must take from the earth responsibly, so don't forage the lot and leave plenty for wildlife. You must have permission from landowners and know exactly what you're taking, as mistakes can be dangerous. Wild foraging is a great way of honing wildlife identification skills." Despite their enthusiasm for foraging, the trusts have had problems with people taking too much from their reserves and are suspicious that the foraged goods have been going to the restaurant trade. Berkshire, Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire Wildlife Trust has banned people from picking mushrooms on its nature reserves and reports that groups of foragers have been ripping up fungi on a commercial scale. And members of the public said they had seen groups walking around trust reserves in Berkshire, such as Snellsmore Common, and filling bags with mushrooms. And staff suspected the perpetrators were selling their finds to the restaurant trade. Roger Stace, BBOWT land manager for Berkshire, said, "We see this problem every year, but I think it's worsened. We've certainly had more reports. I suspect this is partly down to the cost of living crisis, and I fear commercial foragers are selling stolen fungi to restaurants for money. We are lucky to have some incredibly rare fungus species on our nature reserves, and if people aren't trained, they could be picking and destroying those rare species." Well, there you go, a warning that some people have been taking foraging to excess, selling what they've managed to gather to commercial enterprises for personal gain. Well, there you go, folks. Hope you found this news interesting. If you did, then please click the like button down below and leave your comments. Let me know what you think about the topics that we covered. Up next, we've got this video that I think you might find useful. And if you haven't done so already, then why not subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you get notified when I load up a new video. Well, thanks for watching, folks. Until next time, bye.